Today we're going to be talking about the excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, also known as epoc. Epoc refers to the body's elevated amount of oxygen the body uses to consume after exercise. Um, it's always above resting levels. Even though the workout is over, the body is still working hard to recover and return back to normal. Epoc happens because exercise, especially at a moderate to a high intensity, disrupts a lot of systems in the body. And oxygen is needed after exercise to restore balance, replenish energy levels, and support recovery processes. So instead of your body immediately shutting down, your body stays at a heightened metabolic state for a period of time. One of the main reasons that epoc occurs is due to ATP and PCR. During intense exercise, ATP and PCR storages are depleted, and oxygen is required afterward to restore energy levels or energy reserves in our muscles. Another contributor is lactate metabolism. So lactate is not a waste. It can be reused as energy source or converted back to the glucose in the liver, and both processes do require oxygen. Then there's thermoregulation. This also plays a role as well. The body temperature increases during exercise, and after exercise, the body continues to use energy to cool down, so aka sweating. On top of that, our hormones like epinephrine, growth hormones, and cholesterol, they remain at an elevated level, which keeps metabolic rates higher during recovery. Also, our heart rate and ventilation also stay elevated after exercise to support oxygen delivery and carbon dioxide removal. Oxygen is also needed to restore our iron balance in our muscle to help them fully relax, fully recover. All of these factors together explain why oxygen consumption does not immediately return back to resting levels once exercise stops. So how does our exercise variables affect epoc? The most important factor influencing epoc is exercise intensity. So higher intensity exercise creates more metabolic stress, which leads to a higher and a longer lasting epoc. This is because high intensity exercises rely more on anaerobic metabolism, resulting in a higher or a greater lactate accumulation and depletion of ATP PCR storage. Duration is also another factor that affects epoc, but it's not as much like intensity wise, if you know what I'm saying. So long exercises or long workouts increase recovery needs, but duration alone doesn't significantly increase epoc unless the exercise is performed at a higher intensity. Exercise modes also matter as well. So that's like resistance training, sprinting, interval-based workouts that tend to produce a greater epoc compared to steady-state aerobic exercise because they place more stress on muscles and energy systems. So when comparing steady-state aerobic exercise to like high intensity or interval training, steady-state exercise results in a smaller epoc that returns to baseline relatively quickly. And then so with high intensity or interval training leads to large epochs that can last for several hours. So in terms of recovery, neither one automatically is better. Steady state exercise allows for recovery and may be more appropriate for like endurance athletes or even the clinical population. And then high intensity exercise creates greater recovery demands and needs to be programmed carefully and properly. So you probably use that for maybe an Olympic athlete or something. Who knows? Then there is epoch, energy expenditure, and and misconceptions. So epoch does contribute to the total energy expenditure, but but its impact is often exaggerated for the most part. The calories or extra calories burned during epoc are relatively small compared to what's burned during the actual workout. I don't know where we got that myth from, but yeah. Um, During recovery, the body tends to rely more on fat oxidation, partly because insulin levels are lower and also our stress hormones are elevated. But however, um, increased fat used during epoc doesn't automatically mean a greater fat loss. A common misconception actually, is that afterburn effect leads to like a huge calorie burn. In reality, epoc adds on a modest amount of daily energy and expenditure. Um, Another misconception is that high intensity exercise guarantees fat loss, but um, because of epoch, but fat loss ultimately depends on overall energy balance and consistency. Also, a large epoch doesn't mean better recovery. It actually reflects greater on the psychological stress, but which can be definitely an issue if recovery isn't managed properly. So if using this in like a practical application, so in performance settings, epochs can be used to help plan training intensities and also recovery. Workouts that can create a large epoch, like heavy lifting, or like a high intensity interval, um, should be followed by like a lower intensity session, or like adequate or like just rest for the most part. For body composition goals, epoch should be seen more as like a bonus than the main focus. Long-term consistency, training volume, and nutrition matters much more. Much more. In a clinical setting or health related population, keeping epoch low is often preferred to avoid excess fatigue, but moderate intense exercise is usually safer and much more sustainable. So if I was to explain epoch to a client, I would say something like, your body keeps working after the workout to recover, but the real results come after staying consistent and not trying to chase like that afterburn that everybody just thinks is so special. So overall, epoch represents the body recovery process after exercise. It's influenced mostly by intensity, contributes modestly to total energy expenditure, and is best used as a way to continue it's best used sorry, I lost my train of thought. Best used as a way to understand recovery demands than a main driver of fat loss.